First at 9. This is Other Derana 24/7.
Sri Lanka's reserves fragile, warns central bank governor.
There's an oil price hike pushed into a crisis.
370 million rupees supplementary estimate to purchase vehicles for MPs. And in international news, Egypt's Hosni Mubarak walks free. Hello there, very good evening to you. Thank you for joining us here at Other Derana 24/7. I'm the Asaman Prematunga. Let's take a look at some of your leading local stories now. Now, a supplementary estimate of 370 million rupees to purchase vehicles for several ministers and MPs was presented to Parliament today. Accordingly, 3 ministers, 4 deputy ministers, a state minister and deputy chairman of committees are to be entitled to these privileges. The supplementary estimate was presented to Parliament by Chief Government Whip Minister Gayantha Karunatilaka. Still in Parliament news, Speaker Karu Jayasuriya made a special statement in Parliament today requesting parliamentarians to refrain from unruly behaviour. He called for the honour of the House to be maintained at all times. Meanwhile, Parliament expressed condolences for the late Prime Minister Ratnasiri Wickramanayake.
There were significant transformation that has taken place in Sri Lanka's political journey. Late Prime Minister Ratnasiri Wickramanayake had the opportunity to adapt to all these changes. We share a friendship despite his political views. There was never a problem between the two of us. There could be different political ideologies, but we must create the opportunity to work together in the Parliament. He was defeated in the general election of 1977. After the defeat, he had to spend months in jail, but he was never consumed by hatred. He never had any nationalistic views, but he had a great sense of nationality. May he attain Nibbana. And then we wish our Prime Minister a very happy birthday.
අපි අගමැතිතුමාට නිවන් සම්පත් ලැබේවා කියලා ප්‍රාර්ථනා කරනවා. ඒ වගේම අපි අගමැතිතුමාට අපි සුබ උපන්දිනයක් කියලා ප්‍රාර්ථනා කරනවා.
3 army personnel allegedly involved in the Ratupaswala shooting in 2013 were arrested by the Criminal Investigations Department and were remanded until the 3rd of April. The lives of 3 people were claimed when a group of protesters and security forces clashed in Valivaria on August 1st, 2013. The Ratupaswala area residents had organised a demonstration to oppose water contamination by the waste of a factory in the area. In the meantime, President Maithripala Sirisena appointed a special committee headed by the Secretary of the Gampaha district to provide recommendations on the case. In news from Geneva, Rear Admiral Sarath Veerasekara, speaking at the 34th session of the United Nations Human Rights Council, stated that the UNHRC had been misled by the LTTE diaspora. He made this statement yesterday in response to allegations of war crimes made by Northern Provincial Councillor M.K. Shivajalingam.
Speaking at the 34th session of the United Nations Human Rights Council held in Geneva yesterday, Northern Provincial Councillor M.K. Sivajalingam, representing a non-governmental organisation, reiterated calls for an international investigation into alleged war crimes in Sri Lanka.
The people of Elam Tamil is urgently in need for Human Rights Council and the High Commissioner for Human Rights to provide the necessary technical assistance and capacity building to protect their right to live in peace until they enjoyed the right to self-determination. We are concerned that while Sri Lanka makes public commitments to cooperate with UN bodies, it fails to follow through on these commitments. All Tamil human rights activists and elected members reiterates its call on this council to establish an international investigation into alleged violations of international humanitarian and human rights law crimes against humanity and genocide by Sri Lankan security forces during the conflict in Sri Lanka.
In response, Rear Admiral Sarath Veerasekara, representing the International Buddhist Relief Organization, had this to say.
The Sri Lankan forces defeated the most ruthless terrorist organization in the world, the LTT. But the Human Rights Commission has charged that our troops have committed war crimes. The Human Rights Commission should know, at least now, that they have been lied to and fooled by LTT diaspora regarding OISL report. Tamil diaspora now trying to achieve ELAM through United Nations, which the LTT couldn't achieve through terror. The British Prime Minister vows to protect UK troops from legal abuse and never allows to be victims of war crimes. Unfortunately, we do not have patriotic leaders of that caliber, but that does not mean that there are no patriotic Sri Lankans who will protect our heroic men. We need your moral support for that. This resolution undermines sovereignty. It is all about politics and not about human rights.
Meanwhile, Rear Admiral Sarath Veerasekara says that some parties within the government had misunderstood his views during the speech he made at the 34th session of the UN Human Rights Council. He expressed these views in reaction to Minister Mahinda Amaravira's comments on Wednesday.
No party except those representing governments made statement during the main session in Geneva. But there were committee meetings in separate rooms where anybody could express views. We saw how the diaspora and Sarath Veerasekara also spoke at these meetings. They requested special rapporteurs to be sent to the country. We will not welcome any special rapporteurs here.
I understand that some people are trying to misinform the public, saying that I have requested the United Nations to send us representative to Sri Lanka to investigate the war crimes. So that's all wrong. This resolution is based on High Commissioner Said Hussein's report, which says that we have committed war crimes. And that report, Mr. Mangala Samarira has accepted with appreciation and then co-sponsored this resolution with the USA. So what we have proved in our document is that the High Commissioner report is full of contradictions, omissions and blatant lies. So what I have requested the United Nations General Assembly is to assign a special rapporteur to investigate as to how this type of false document was compiled, and also to impose a moratorium on UNHRC from pursuing this resolution any further until such investigation is completed.
Parliamentarian Suresh Premachandra says that the UN Human Rights Council decision to extend the time period for implementation of the Resolution 31 on Sri Lanka is unacceptable. The TNA parliamentarian was addressing a media briefing organised by the Jaffna Press Club in Jaffna today.
The United Nations Human Rights Council again given 2 years time to the Sri Lankan government to implement the 2015 October resolution. This is unethical when a country is telling very clearly and categorically we are not going to do anything. They are going to put pressure on the Sri Lankan government to implement these matters. We, the Tamil people, as a leader of EPRLF, this is not acceptable to the Tamil people. We thought the UNHRC will take the Sri Lankan government for an international investigation, maybe through ICC or a special tribunal. But that didn't take place. But anyway, the Sri Lankan government now, they got the time from the UNHRC. We have to wait and see what they are going to do.
Welcome back, and continuing with our local stories now. President Maithripala Sirisena met Russian Prime Minister Dmitry Medvedev today. Russian Prime Minister pledged Russia's commitment to providing more economic benefits to Sri Lanka. President Maithripala Sirisena was warmly welcomed by the Russian Prime Minister Dmitry Medvedev today. During the meeting, Russian Prime Minister and President Maithripala Sirisena discussed expanding bilateral relationships between the two countries. Meanwhile, the ceremony to mark the 60th anniversary of diplomatic relations between Sri Lanka and Russia was held in Moscow yesterday, with President Sirisena attending as the chief guest. During the ceremony, Russian Deputy Foreign Minister Igor Morgulov stated that the friendship between Russian President Vladimir Putin and Sri Lankan President Maithripala Sirisena will create a new landmark in bilateral ties. Furthermore, the Deputy Minister stated that Russia will always stand by Sri Lanka to protect the sovereignty and independence of the country. Russian dignitaries, including cosmonaut Valentina Tereshkova, the first woman to travel to space, also participated at the occasion.
The main aim of this journey is to develop our friendship. In the discussions with President Putin yesterday and discussions with Russian Prime Minister this morning, we have focused on the development of our country and other areas. During bilateral discussions with President Vladimir Putin, he paid personal attention to all fields covering the development of Sri Lanka.
Meanwhile, all the forests located near the Vilpattu North Sanctuary belonging to the Department of Forest Conservation will be declared as one reserve. President Maithripala Sirisena signed the special Gazette notification in Moscow declaring Mavillu Veppal, Karadikkuli, Marichikadi and Villatikulam forests as Mavillu Forest Reserve under the Forest Conservation Ordinance. Former President Mahinda Rajapaksa was summoned by the Presidential Commission of Inquiry today to record a statement regarding the ongoing investigation into allegations of failure to make payments for adverts broadcast on a state-owned television channel during the last presidential election. The former president arrived at the commission at 9:50 a.m. Yoshita Rajapaksa and some joint opposition members also arrived at the premises of the Presidential Commission of Inquiry to investigate and inquire into serious acts of fraud, corruption and abuse of power, state resources and privileges. However, the officers of the commission recorded his statements for 40 minutes.
Well, they will call me regarding issues of several other organizations too in the future. No, I did not have any responsibility in this as I was running as a candidate. I don't telecast anything on Rupavahini. What is the purpose of telecasting any advertisements? It doesn't always need to have government advertisements. Rupavahini does that in other ways. Yes, it was the same earlier. I agree. So I did not need to advertise. They say it is wrong. It was not wrong then. The same is done now and will continue.
And in one of our investigative stories, now Ada Derana has constantly kept watch on destruction caused to the environment through illegal acts of organizations and individuals. Now recently we cited an excavation process that is destructing nature and its beauty. Here's more on that story.
Ada Derana received information about an ongoing illegal process of sand mining at Nelum Sirivavar in Sevanagala, Monaragala. Moving close to the site, we witnessed small lakes created around the area, which were originally large sand mining pits filled with water. Area residents say the illegal activity has high-level blessings.
They say that they have a permit given by the Geological Survey and Mines Bureau. They load sand at night. They also load kumbuk trees from this place. How do we stop this? They come in luxury vehicles. Those people are big built. When asked, they take several names of ministers.
Being aware that cameras were watching them, the traffickers escaped the location along with construction equipment. Officers of the Sevanagala Police, the Mahavali Authority and Geological Survey and Mines Bureau later arrived at the scene. They revealed that licensing law were violated through the sand mining process here.
Welcome back. Now, Central Bank Governor Dr. Indrajit Kumaraswamy warns that Sri Lanka is facing a fragile reserves position, unable to face challenges of volatile global conditions. Meanwhile, Central Bank raised interest rates for the first time in 8 months, saying that tighter policy was a precaution against a build-up of inflationary pressures. According to the central bank, the country's reserves are currently estimated at $5.1 billion compared to $6 billion as at end 2016. Up until Wednesday, the Sri Lankan rupee has depreciated by 1.2% against the US dollar during this year.
5.1 billion is less than 3.5 months import cover. That is very, very fragile. We will have a very, very thin margin. And if something happens, if there's an oil price hike or some kind of shock hits us, then we will get pushed into a crisis. The government's target is to get closer to 7.5 billion by the end of this year. So for that purpose, we are hoping to issue a sovereign bond. And this Chinese money is tremendously helpful in doing that. Hambantota deal like a loku ekak.
The Hambantota deal is a great one. It is a major plus. It is good for our reserves position. Just not that, if you don't have this money, there could have been a big burden on the people, forcing us to take difficult measures. They will initially give 100 million and after 3 months, 300 million.
300 million.
Meanwhile, Sri Lanka's economic growth slowed to a 3-year low of 4.4% in 2016 from 4.8% the previous year. Effective today, Central Bank raised key rates by 25 basis points, pushing the standing deposit facility rate to a 4-year peak of 7.25% and the standing lending facility rate to 8.75%, its highest since July 2013.
One is on the monetary side, we are not entirely happy with the developments. Credit growth has not slowed down as much as we wanted, and the money base is expanding at a rate we are not comfortable with. IMF එක ඉතින් ඒගොල්ලෝ කිව්වා හැබැයි අපි
Even the IMF did tell us, but we have analyzed our economy. We have not done everything that they have asked us to. In April, I'm sure we can have an agreement in Washington. Our current performance is good.
අපේ performance එක දැනට නම් හොඳට යනවා.
And now we have the daily market update with Imeshi Fernando from the Colombo Stock Exchange.
Top 5 gainers of the day were Amana Takaful, Royal Palms Beach Hotel, Adam Capital, Lanka Ceramic and Guest Etna. While the top 5 losers were Blue Diamonds, Non-Voting, Adam Investments, Kahawata Plantations, Richard Peris Exports and Muscali Plantations. Today's foreign purchases were 1 billion rupees and foreign sales were 457.23 million rupees. There were 11 crossings today and the crossings turnover was 1.5 billion rupees.
And to bring you a detailed picture of how the markets performed during the week, here's Raghuram Ramakrishnan from NDB Securities with the weekly review.
ASPI fell down below 6,000 level during this week, recording a weekly loss of 0.85%, mainly due to price losses in John Keel's Holdings, Sri Lanka Telecom and Dialog Asiata. S&P SL20 that represents the blue chip counters also recorded a loss of 1% for the week. The average daily turnover was down from last week to 861 million rupees, mainly due to foreign buying, which was seen throughout the week. Total foreign purchases accounted for 65% of the total turnover. This resulted in a net foreign inflow of 1.3 billion rupees. Out of the weekly turnover, the block trades accounted for 59%, which was a higher proportion than the last week.
And now here's a look at how the Sri Lankan rupee traded against other currencies during the day. Welcome back in your sports news. It's cricket news. Sri Lanka is all set to play the first match of the 3 ODI series against visitors Bangladesh tomorrow. Sri Lanka looks forward to strike back after a disappointing defeat in the second test against Bangladesh at the P. Saravanamuthu Stadium recently.
The first match of the series between Sri Lanka and Bangladesh will begin at 2:30 p.m. at the Dambulla International Cricket Stadium tomorrow.
Disappointed we lose the last test match. I think it is a new tournament. It's a very good opportunity for us as a team. We are missing few of our senior players, but still there is lots of very good young players like Asela Gunratna, Niroshan Dikwella. This is the last series before the Champions Trophy.
In tennis news, Francis Tiafoe finished strongly in his opening round match yesterday at the Miami Open, racing through the final set against Konstantin Kravouk. Now, Tiafoe sets up a clash with fourth seed Roger Federer, who won the recent Paribas Open ATP World Tour.
Qualifier Francis Tiafoe battled past unseeded Konstantin Kravouk in 3 sets yesterday to set up a meeting with 4th seed Roger Federer at the Miami Open. American Tiafoe, currently the 101st ranked player in the world by the ATP, got past Russian Kravouk, ranked 103rd, 7-5, 5-7, 6-1 in an opening round match in the Masters 1000 Series tournament. The win advanced the 19-year-old Tiafoe into a second round match with someone nearly twice his age, the 35-year-old Federer, who is currently ranked 6th in the world.
Tiafoe. 2 sets to 1, 7-5, 5-7.
In international news, former Egyptian President Hosni Mubarak left detention today, free to go home 6 years since being overthrown. He was ordered free earlier this month after Egypt's top appeals court cleared him of charges of complicity in the deaths of protesters in the 2011 uprising.
Former President Hosni Mubarak was sentenced to life in prison over the charges. Mubarak was transferred to the Mahdi Military Hospital in 2013 on bail, where he remained until his release today. However, following another trial, a judge had decreed in 2015 that he could be released from detention. Earlier this month, Egypt's top appeals court cleared him over deaths of protesters in the 2011 uprising, leading to his release. Over 800 people are believed to have died in clashes with security forces in cities including Cairo, Suez and Alexandria during the 18-day revolt that ended in Mubarak's resignation.
And on to your weather forecast for tomorrow now. Mainly fair weather will prevail over most parts of the island. Now, however, light showers may occur at a few places in the Kalutara, Galle and Ratnapura districts after 2 p.m. Misty conditions can be expected at some places in the western, Sabaragamuwa and central provinces during the morning. Let's now take a look at your city-by-city weather forecast. That's it on your main news tonight. For the latest in local, international, business, sports, weather or entertainment news, log on to www.otherderana.lk or like us on Facebook or follow us on Twitter at otherderana. But before we go, we'd like to take you on a panoramic tour of the Vilpattu National Park that is blessed with nearly 60 natural lakes and is also home to a world-renowned leopard population and other animal species. Here's wishing you a wonderful weekend. Good night.
information 24 hours a day. This is Sri Lanka's premier news channel, Other Derana, 24/7.